Hi everybody, Kelly here. So, I'm not usually one to do a lot of Christmas in July crafting, but this year when I was putting together my quilting plans in January, I knew that I hadn't quite finished this Kringle kit from Teresa Kogut last Christmas, and so I thought, well, I'll put it on my plans for July and I'll do Christmas in July. So just a couple of things for Christmas in July, just this last week here. So I am going to try to get done what I can get done this week and today. But I'll probably put whatever I can't get done, I'll probably put it away until around Thanksgiving. But anyhow, I'm hoping to get the kit fully, at least get the top fully completed. So let me show it to you a little closer. So this was the Kringle box by Riley Blake from Teresa Kogut Fabrics. And so I really loved that kit, or really loved the quilt top, so I got the kit. I think I got it on a really good sale price, and just never had time to get it made up last year just because I got it really late in the year. And so anyhow, I'm going to work on it right now. Partly I was doing this because, like I said, I planned it in early January for a July project, but also because I am a member of Teresa Kogut's Patreon, and this month she did a Christmas cross stitch that I thought went really well with this one. And so I thought, well, I'll work on those two things this week, and that'll be maybe think cool thoughts, right? So the cross stitch that she had was actually a different Santa Claus. I'm not real sure that I love this Santa Claus's face as much as I like the Kringle, but I do love Raggedy Ann and Teddy. I actually grew up with Raggedy Ann, and so I just thought it was really cute. And the picture here I don't think does the actual stitch justice. Plus, I am actually going to take mine and, well, let me show you what I started stitching. So I haven't got very far with mine, but just to show you here. So I've basically just got Santa's coat outlined, and sorry for the thread, or for the floss, sorry, but I started Anne's sweater right over here. And so I haven't got very far, but my plan for this is to actually make it into a stuffy. So like a not really a toy, but stuffed toy, I guess, is the only thing I can think of. And so I had this piece of green fabric that's a 32 count, I believe it's an Ada. I'm not really sure. It's some cheap fabric that I got from Amazon. So, but anyhow, I had dyed it for another project, and this was just a piece that I had left from that project. And so my plan is to go ahead and stitch Santa on this, and like I said, turn him into a stuffy. But I'm thinking I'm gonna have some green excess left when I try to, so this is not necessarily a stitch that's gonna lend itself really well to cutting out around the object and not having any fabric that's showing. So like you can see there between Anne's hand and the dress, you know, around his feet, there's going to be some fabric showing. And if I tried to cut that fabric out, then he probably wouldn't stand up right or something like that. So anyhow, my thought is, if I don't like the green with the blue of his pants and the blue of Anne's shirt, that I will probably just pick another floss color and actually fill in the fabric as well. It's just that this was a piece that I had, and I thought it might go, but honestly, now that I'm starting to stitch the blue floss on here, I'm not really sure. So we'll see. I am probably done with the cross stitch for this week, and we'll put it away until about Thanksgiving. And then I'll pick it up again, and we'll see how that goes. All right, well, let's get on to making the quilt. So this is the Kris Kringle panel quilt kit by Teresa Kogut through Riley Blake. And I never got a chance to get it assembled last year, so I'm going to do it right now. And then I'll have it all ready for Christmas. Yay! Okay, maybe it won't be all ready. Maybe the top will just be assembled and I'll have to actually quilt it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I think I should be able to get it done fairly soon. Because this piece right here, I believe, is all a panel. I think. I could be wrong. And then you have to do the trees. I don't know. All of a sudden I can't remember. But let's get started on it and find out. Ooh, pretty. So it looks like we got some pieces that are probably more for the borders. Sashing. No, for the Christmas trees. That's what they're for. Now that I think about it. Yep. And then I think we do squares for the bottom of a couple of these colors. Aren't they pretty? I love that reindeer. And it looks like we got quite a few different colors. All right. I love that one. That one is so cute. I should have got more fabric of that. I especially like that Santa. And the snowman. Let's see. So cute. Alright, and the panel. See if I can open it up and put it far enough away to see. Well, there's his face anyhow. And then it's a pretty good sized panel, so. Alright. Looks like we got everything in the instructions. Awesome. Alright, well, for what's a pretty simple quilt kit, right off the bat, I'm finding out that I have to piece some of my strips together. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have to be really careful about cutting them in exactly the right spot. So I'm going to have some excess from this particular one, but I really want to try to get it to line up just right. So yeah, I'm going to try to cut this in just the right spot so that I get exactly the same image. You probably can't see it because my ceiling fan light is on, but I'm going to try to get exactly the same thing so that it fussy cuts into like the strip, like you cannot tell that it was pieced together. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to get it here. Alright, well, I'm going to cut this off camera because I kind of got you at a weird angle right now, so. Okay, well, I probably should have had my fabric ironed first, but anyhow, I think this is going to be about as good a matchup as I could have got, so. And I, of course, have to cut off my seams there, and I just will have to find the center and sew it at the center and cut out a 54-inch piece, or rather just overlap it in exactly the right spot when I'm sewing, and then just So basically I'll kind of go like this. Oh, well, I'll trim off my selvage, of course, but then when I go to sew it together, I will just do something like this and try to match them up. Probably put it on my light board just to be sure. Match them up as close as possible. It's going to be a little bit off, but do what I can do here. Maybe I'll just go into the green actually here. And then I'll have to watch out for that sheep there. So that sheep is actually right there. So something kind of like that when I get it sewn together. Sort of. Anyhow, that's, you know, and then I'll have it kind of fussy pieced together too. And I think there's a couple of strips in here that have to be done like that, so I'll have to be on the lookout. Alright, well, I've run into something that I'm not liking about this kit, so I'm trying to come up with an option to fix it. So this fabric right here is with the fabric cut. It asked me to do 3 cuts of this size with the fabric, and 2 of them I had to cut out the pieces for the sides right here. And so I have a piece left from one of those strips, and then the 3rd strip, and it tells me in the pattern instructions that I am to sew this onto the width of fabric, the other width of fabric strip. And so what that will give me is this 54.5-inch strip right up here on my diagram. But it's also going to give me a seam right here. So I don't really want to do that. If I have to do a seam in this particular one, I would like it to be centered. Like the green one up here, I had to do 2 pieces, and the red one as well, I had to do 2 pieces, but I was able to cut both of them with the 42-inch strip, and so I can center it and cut off the little pieces off the sides of those, and it'll be just fine. But this one's going to be like a seam, you know, on one side or the other, and I just don't really like that idea. So I think what I'm going to try to do is this center portion right here of the off-white fabric is with the fabric. It's 42 inches. The panel is 42.5 inches. So I think what I'm going to do is this one part right here will be 42.5 inches, and I'm going to turn the sides into patchwork squares. So I have enough scraps left definitely to do that, and I think that's my option right now. I will still have this piece right here if I decide to do what the instructions say and piece it together, but I just think that's weird to have, you know, this is only like a 12.5 by 14 inch piece, so the seam would have to be not nearly at the center of this. So, alright, I'm going to try to do my patchworks and see. Alright, well, I'm going to give a little tip for anybody that maybe hasn't already sewn this quilt, but is going to this year. I read the pattern a while back and thought it was pretty easy, etc., and kind of set it aside, and just now when I went to get it out and get started on it, I just went ahead and did the cutting, and I've run into another thing that actually I could have improved had I reread the pattern and rewrote it for myself. Isn't that the way sometimes? I'm going to make it work, but there's a simpler way. So the pattern actually calls for kind of doing the trees as almost like a flying geese. Not quite, because you can see these strips right in here don't actually come to a point with your background pieces, but it's very similar. Okay, so what the instructions call for is to cut a whole lot of 2.5 inch squares, and then you've got like 4.5 inch, a 6.5, an 8.5, you know, so forth and so on and so forth for the tree. So you cut a 2.5 inch square, and I will need to sew this down in a diagonal, so the other one on a diagonal, but then this is the top of the tree, and I have to come up with another strip. So I'll have this on here like this, and then it called for me to cut a stack of this size, and then the next size down, and then the next size down, so that you can form your tree. So now I have to sew this on here. And it just seems kind of like, why didn't I just cut this strip in such a length that I could literally just, so I don't have a long enough one necessarily, but I could just go like this and sew it down here and then flip it back and make the length of the block. Had I read it ahead of time, I would have made adjustments and done that, but I didn't read it thoroughly enough to begin with, and so now all my pieces are cut and I can't really go back. So, I mean, it'll be fine, but it's going to have more seams in it than it needs to have. So, just if you haven't sewn this kit already and are going to this year, be aware of that. It'll still look fine. It just is going to always be a thing that I look at on the quilt now that kind of annoys me that I could have fixed that. But it is what it is. And kind of one of those things that I could pick a different background and try to make it work, but I've cut it all up already, and there's an awful lot of big pieces in it. So there's a lot of bigger pieces of that color of fabric, and so I kind of hate to waste it, but I just am not going to love the fact that you can tell from the artwork here that these would be strips that would form the tree branches, but now they're also going to have seams in the background, and that just seems unnecessary. It's not horrible, it's not like it's going to be the end of the world, but it's not necessary, and it's also twice as much work. So that's very cool. Great. Alright, well, I better get back to sewing. Alright, well, it's getting hot, so I'm finishing up for tonight. I was hoping that I would have the top done for y'all, but like I said, too hot, and I need to get some sleep. So I think my little fix there at the top with the two sides scrappy is going to be an okay option. I also think my trees are going to be alright, but again, had I read the instructions ahead, well, had I not read them way ahead of time, had I read them right as I was going to start cutting, I would have not cut all those pieces the way that the instructions said, and I would not have had all those seams right there. But it's fine. It'll be fine. And so I have not got the applique done yet, and of course I've not got all of my rows here sewn together. They're just kind of sitting here on the floor for right now. As you can see from the top strips, the top two strips are sewed together, but they're not sewed to the scrappy patches across the top of Santa's head there. They're just kind of sitting there for now. And I will keep working on it this weekend, and I'll have my top done before Monday, and then I will continue quilting it around Thanksgiving time. Alright, well, y'all have a good weekend, and thanks for watching, and try to stay cool.